Time having arrived, I'm going to hereby open the Brockton School Committee meeting for Tuesday, January 26th, 2021, it being 7 p.m. I need to read the following into the record. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and state of emergency, on March 12th, 2020, Governor Baker issued an executive order temporarily suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, which is Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20. Pursuant to the order, public bodies are temporarily relieved from the open meeting law's requirement that the meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public. So long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberation through adequate alternative means, this meeting tonight will be held and will be accessible to the public via Brockton Community Access, Brockton Public Schools website, which is www.bpsma.org, YouTube, and Comcast Channel 98. The public can also access this meeting via the following link, which is www.youtube.com/TheBrocktonChannels. I will now take a roll call vote relative to establishing a quorum. The Chair Sullivan is here. Vice Chair D'Agostino.
Here.
Ms. Azak.
Here.
Mrs. Mendez.
Here.
Mr. Minicello. Mr. Rodriguez. Mrs. Sullivan.
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan.
Here.
We hereby have a quorum. We will go into the meeting. We do have an agenda tonight. It's a pretty lengthy agenda, but if we could, I'd ask everybody please stand and salute our American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Members of the school committee, I am going to respectfully ask, I know we have one hearing a visitor, which is our esteemed president of the BEA, Kim Gibson. I'm going to let Kim have the floor. And then I'm going to respectfully ask that we take a motion to take, again, Dr. Rick Herman out of order tonight. He is listed on Agenda 4A under the report of the superintendent. And I know Dr. Herman is here tonight. And if we could respectfully honor his needs to take him earlier in the agenda tonight, that'd be appropriate. With that being said, I'm going to open it up to Kim. Good evening, Kim.
Good evening, Mayor Sullivan, school committee members. Thank you. If you want, you can take Dr. Herman first. I don't mind waiting.
You don't at all?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. Appreciate that very much.
You're
Members
welcome.
of the committee, could we entertain a motion relative to taking Dr. Herman out of order?
I'll make a motion to take Dr. Herman out of order.
Second.
There was a motion made by Tim Sullivan. And it was properly seconded by the Vice Chair, Mark D'Agostino, to take Dr. Rick Herman, MD, out of order. I need to take a roll call vote. Sullivan Chair says yes. Vice Chair D'Agostino.
Yes.
Ms. Azak.
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez.
Yes.
Mr. Minicello join us yet? No. Mr. Rodriguez join us yet? No. Mrs. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Hereby passes, and we will, and thank you very much, members of the committee. We will take agenda item 4A, which is Dr. Richard Herman, FACEP Pandemic Consultant, COVID-19 Metrics Update. Dr. Herman, good evening, and thank you for being here again.
Well, thanks for having me back, and appreciate everyone accommodating me and letting me go early. So this is going to be a little bit briefer report than usual, just to kind of give everyone an update on where we are over the past week, which is the last time I came to see you. This is just a refresher where we were last week. The Commonwealth had a red, yellow, green number of 74 cases per day per 100,000. And this week, over the past 7 days, that has fallen to 57.2. So Massachusetts, like lots of other places in the country, are seeing a dip in the number of daily cases over the last week or so. This is what Brockton looks like. Up until a few days ago, I included up until the 23rd, when I felt like the numbers were pretty much complete. The turnaround time for testing is averaging around 3 days. So we'll still see some numbers come in. But as you can see, we had a Thanksgiving bump, things plateaued. We had a Christmas bump, and now things are falling back down. And the question, of course, will be where are they going to plateau and how much farther they'll drop. This is where we were last week, and I would just bring your attention to our number was 92 7 days ago when we met, and we had 100 patients combined in the two hospitals. This is our dashboard tonight, where we're down to 81 cases per day per 100,000, and the number of patients in the hospital has fallen off. I wouldn't say dramatically because the hospitals are still feeling quite stressed, but definitely feel like there's an easing of the number of inpatients in both hospitals. We did have one death reported today, and unfortunately, it's the youngest death we've had today. A patient in their 20s died sometime earlier this week. This is what the towns around us look like. That 14-day period from last Thursday's health report, everyone is in the sort of put previous week, so you can change in number for the towns that surround us, and not to dwell, but everybody is right where we are in terms of very high numbers. Mayor and I had a call with the towns in Plymouth County yesterday, and likewise all of the towns in Plymouth County are in the red area as well. This is what the hospital numbers look like, just included from the end of October through today. And you can see just using the gray line, which is a kind of a 3-day average, you can see over the last week, the number of hospitalizations has fallen, and that's a good sign, sort of corresponding to the drop in cases that we're seeing widespread in Brockton and surrounding towns over the last couple of weeks. This is the breakdown age group up through today, which parallels in just in terms of percentage of groups represented. This is testing as of this weekend. This is Brockton Neighborhood Health Center data of just Brockton residents. And I'm hoping that this drop off in percentage down from 23 down to 16 is real, and that it continues to fall, and that we continue to see a decline, that we've passed our peak of the post-holiday surge and that things are plateauing off now. Last week, our number was 95.7, and this Thursday, when the number is published, it has been falling off, and so I'm predicting that it's really going to be in the high 70s and really will fall, I would say, somewhat dramatically compared to the rapid rise that we've seen over the last several weeks. So I think it's good that we're heading downward. Obviously, still a lot of COVID in the community, but hopefully that trend will continue. This was our conversation with the CTC, the Community Tracing Collaborative, who followed up on 600 cases in the last week. And I'm not going to go over the breakdown again, but just a few things to point out. One is people are being a little bit nicer to us, and just in terms of talking to us, instead of being hundreds and hundreds of cases, it's fewer and fewer that are not talking to us. So that's good. We see clusters, we see cases without clusters, we see close contacts, and where these places are listed, by the way, are not necessarily places in Brockton. These are residents of Brockton who may work in a correctional facility, obviously, that's not in Brockton, or a grocery store that's not in Brockton, that kind of thing. So we do see healthcare settings, congregate settings, and workplaces. But the bigger picture is that I believe is in this graph, which looks at the last 4,000 cases, sort of sometime in November, and it shows us what the contact tracers feel pretty certain about, which is the vast plurality, half of the cases are household contacts. So it's your relative, it's someone that you live with, and a quarter of the cases are your friends and people that you hang out with. The next biggest group is unknown. Everything else is slices of the pie. Houses of worship, restaurants, health clubs, sports, even workplaces are a little bit bigger. But again, showing COVID is everywhere, and that it really is the people that you have close contact with, household and other close contacts, that are accounting for the vast majority of spread. So kids, last week when we spoke, the total was 975 children under the age of 18, and added this week, we have 65 more kids in the last 7 days, for a total thus far since the start of the pandemic of 1,040 kids, no additional hospitalizations, and nobody in the ICU. And this is just a breakdown by month. Last week, we said that probably the month of January will be close to what the month of December looks like. And my guess is it probably will, when the month is done, probably will be about the same as December. And this is just a breakdown by week. And you can see we really had a big uptick in kids over November and December. And now this week we have seen something fall off, and I'm expecting that it will fall off as the surge levels off into February. This is where we were last week by school age breakdown. And if we add a few this week, this is our pre-K, elementary, middle school, and school age kids, just to give you the total numbers of what we're dealing with in Brockton. So if this week, for example, we would probably add another 9 cases a day, 9 students a day to our count. And the big news for all of us, and a lot of effort in the mayor's office and the Board of Health, really has been vaccinations, and really trying to answer the big question: when are we going to get it, and how much are we going to get? And if I knew, I'd tell you, but it's really rolling out slower than any of us really would like. But we do have plans to administer as soon as we get the vaccine. So there's lots of other stuff going on in the world of COVID in terms of treatment and vaccinations, but those are the sort of a brief overview of the numbers, just to bring everyone up to speed from where we were last week.
Thank you so much, as always, Dr. Herman. I mean, you always come up with the information that is so necessarily for the school committee and myself and superintendent. So I'm going to open it up to any members of the committee that may have a question for Dr. Herman at this time. Superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Herman. As always, appreciate you being with us and all the information you give us and have been giving us ever since, early in the spring. So we really appreciate it. A quick question. I know, and I know the mayor's been pushing this because we lost a testing site at Massasoit, and Ms. Azak spoke about this last week about the struggles with, finding testing sites. Would that result in any of this dip in the number of cases?
The loss of the testing site, not so much, because believe it or not, the number of tests, and I wish I had given that graph, the number of tests has not fallen off dramatically. We're still seeing over 1,000 cases a week being tested. So people are finding places to get tested, even if it's not at Massasoit. They might be going to Randolph, they might be going to Neighborhood Health Center, or the Stop the Spread sites, hospital sites, urgent care, et cetera. But I don't think that the fall off is related to the loss of the testing site. In addition, it kind of parallels what other communities are seeing and what the state is seeing. The state is seeing a fall off in numbers statewide. And I think we're just part of that big picture as well. So my gut sense is no. And the corollary to that is I sure wish we had more testing available for all of us.
Thank you, Doctor.
Superintendent. Thank you. I see Ms. Azak has her hand raised. Joyce.
Oh, thank you. Actually, Superintendent Thomas had covered my question. I was curious to see whether or not having the Massasoit location was going to affect our numbers, given that there were hundreds that were testing there a day. So I did have an opportunity to go take a look at the one in Randolph. So I'd be curious to see how our numbers are going to be next week now that people are finding out where to go to get tested. Because a lot of them, I've just been telling them, go to Cataldo and Randolph. You have to have an appointment, schedule it online. You show up, it's a half hour in and out of there. It's really quick. So I'd be curious to see how our numbers are, because having an adequate testing site for our families, our staff, we have to have somewhere for them to go and not have to wait days to be able to take a test. So we definitely need to try to see what we can do to try to get another testing site in Brockton. I know the mayor's been working on it. Any updates from
Yeah, I
any
mean,
of our state reps?
yeah, no, I mean, I can tell you, I had a test last Wednesday that I scheduled with Neighborhood Health Center. I drove up to the Shaw Center. They gave me a time to be there at 12:15. I was back in my car at 12:20. There was no wait. So people can go to Randolph, but if you want to go to Neighborhood Health Center, again, they're on Legion Parkway, but they're also at the Shaw Center. Good news about the Shaw Center is as of next Monday, which is February 1, they won't be in the trailers anymore. We have reached the renovation stage, and they're going to be able to go indoor now at the Shaw Center. So I hope people don't feel that because Massasoit is not operational, that they need to go to Randolph, because Neighborhood Health Center is ready, willing, and able every single day. And that is a stop the spread site. So again, my experience and my team at the mayor's office have all articulated to me how quick and professional it's been.
Okay, thank you.
Any other additional questions for Dr. Rick? Dr. Herman, again, on behalf of the entire school committee, we just want to thank you. It really has been so valuable, and I know you're doing a lot, and to always give us the metrics and the data and really come up with some analysis that none of us probably would even think of is just so greatly appreciated. So thank you so much, Dr. Herman, and have a good evening.
My pleasure. Thank you all for inviting me. See you next time.
Thank you.
So again, I just want to thank the BEA president, Kim Gibson, for allowing Dr. Herman to jump her in line, as they say. And now I'm going to go back to Kim with the hearing of the visitors. Thanks, Kim.
No problem, Mayor Sullivan. Anytime to help. I like hearing Dr. Herman's presentations as well. So good evening, Mayor Sullivan, Superintendent Thomas, Vice Chair D'Agostino, and school committee members. I want to start tonight by thanking you all once again for all the work that you've been doing during this time. Over the past month or so, you've been involved in some very difficult conversations around when to reopen our schools safely. We've heard reports from Dr. Herman that demonstrate the numbers of COVID-19 have risen over the past month or two in the city of Brockton and our surrounding communities. I have to say, I'm very hopeful hearing Dr. Herman tonight that our trend may be finally moving downwards again. With a new target date of February 23rd for the special education sub-separate students to return, I do find it difficult to understand how we can reopen schools at this time with the COVID-19 positivity rates being as high as they are. When you set the metrics of needing to be in yellow for 3 weeks for a safe reopening back in September, you're basing that school committee policy on the data. While I understand the frustration and desire to reopen our schools for in-person learning, it is very troubling to now hear students may return during a time when our Brockton rates are so high. We have not been in the yellow for 3 weeks since that policy was passed. Dr. Herman has stated that once we are reopened, that the schools will have COVID-19 in their buildings. And we know this to be true from our experience in other districts. Given that reality, as well as the data showing the Brockton community remains in red, there are things that do need to be in place before we can safely reopen. There are currently 110 BEA members that are working fully remotely due to medical conditions, as well as about 40 paraprofessionals and/or MTAs. There needs to be a comprehensive support plan for when the staff will be out. A district of our size cannot effectively run their buildings if a number of staff end up in quarantine or are just out sick. We're seeing what happens in smaller districts around us having to pivot on a day's notice from hybrid to remote learning when too many staff members are placed in quarantine due to those close contacts at school. During normal times, the issue of class coverage can be challenging, but class coverage will be even more of a challenge during COVID-19 times. An integral part to reopening our schools safely is more access to testing sites, and there needs to be in-school testing for students. While you cannot mandate it, it needs to be offered for the children. A second integral part of reopening schools safely is the testing of staff. Last week, I was happy to hear Mayor Sullivan say he was actively investigating what the cost would be to provide testing for staff who need it and want it. Testing of staff and students must go hand in hand and should not be one without the other. A third integral part of reopening schools safely is the COVID-19 vaccine. With the governor's announcement yesterday about phase 2 of the vaccine rollout beginning February 1st, we are on the verge of educators having access to the vaccine. I'm urging you all to rethink the reopening target dates to keep staff and students safe until a vaccine is available and testing for students and staff is in place. Educators will continue to provide the strong remote teaching and learning that is currently happening, as we have done an outstanding job in the remote model under these extraordinary circumstances. Finally, over the past couple of months, I have been contacted by an increased number of BEA members regarding the reopening of schools and the content of the various school committee meetings that have been held. I have always believed in and supported the BEA membership's ability to speak for themselves when issues arise, and know some have contacted you directly over the past few weeks. I don't shy away from controversy and have always been committed to creating a strong working relationship with the school committee. I've worked with some of you longer than others and know you have traditionally supported the educators of Brockton. I have always tried to lead with honesty and compassion. At this time, I would be remiss if I didn't share that I too have been surprised by comments made over the past few meetings in terms of teachers socializing outside of work and students being babysat. I've had to go back and listen to the recordings of the past meetings to be sure I heard what I thought I did, and to see if some comments could have been misinterpreted. Unfortunately, the comments were clear and they were not misinterpreted. I've listened to and discussed with members a frustration that this decision to return to in-person learning is being made while the school committee meets virtually over Zoom and not in person, due to restrictions that the state has put in place limiting indoor gatherings. Your role as a school committee member is a stressful one, and you answer to your constituents. My role as BEA president is similar in that I must listen to and represent more than 1,300 BEA members. With a membership that large, there are many different perspectives on issues, but I can say that we are a very strong membership and support one another in times of need and adversity. As Superintendent Thomas stated again last week, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has commended Brockton educators for the amount of synchronous, also known as live teaching, they are doing on a daily basis. Our teachers and support staff are going above and beyond on a daily basis to reach all of their students. They have risen to the challenge of learning a new learning management system, dealt with engagement issues, found ways to support families with food insecurity, and even partnered with the Brockton Police Department to bring some cheer to their students during the holiday season. Our students are so capable of doing much more than we think, and they too have made great efforts in remote learning. Trust me, everyone wants to return to in-person learning and teaching, but only when it is safe to do so. None of my members are babysitting, and I am quite positive the students are doing what they can on their end to be active learners during this remote period. If there are parents that are concerned with the education their child is receiving, then those issues should be dealt with directly. We all have a responsibility to ensure a quality education for the students of the Brockton Public Schools, and as a graduate of the Brockton Public Schools, I don't take that responsibility lightly. Brockton is not alone in the fact that other districts remain fully remote as we do at this time. I am proud to work with the educators of Brockton Public Schools, and I not only include all BEA members as an educator, but I include the paraprofessionals, MTAs, administrative assistants, tech department, food service workers, custodians, administrators, and all of you and the other staff as educators. We must all work together to ensure the safety of our schools and students and staff. In closing, I do want to thank you again for your time, and I urge you to continue to look at the data and what is needed to be in place when deciding on the dates for reopening schools safely. Thank you, Mayor, for indulging my going over your limit.
Thank you very much, President Gibson. Appreciate it. Really do. Thank you. That's the last matter relative to the hearing of visitors tonight. Item agenda number 3 is the consent agenda, and it's very lengthy. So it's A through N. And at this time, I'm going to entertain, does anybody want to take anything out, or is it collectively? Mr. D'Agostino, Vice Chair.
Yeah, I'm going to take items E, F, G, and J, K, L. But I promise I've made it very, very brief because there's so much.
Okay.
And
Is there
if
any other? Thank you, Mr. D'Agostino. Other Tim Sullivan, please.
Item H.
H. Okay, are there any other matters? Judy?
C and D.
Oh, man. Okay. Gonna have to bear with me here now. Any other matters? Okay, let me just see now. So A, B, C, D, E, F, J, K, L, M, N. So items A, B, I, M, and N can be taken collectively. Are there any questions relative to those matters?
Make a motion to pass items A, B, I, M, and N.
Second.
So motion made by Mrs. Sullivan. It was properly seconded by Mr. Sullivan. I'm going to take a roll call vote. The chair, Sullivan, says yes. The vice chair,
Yes.
Ms. Azak,
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez,
Yes.
Mr. Minicello, did he join us? No.
Mr. Minicello did reach out. He's in traffic on his way.
Okay. How about Mr. Rodriguez? Tony? Not yet. Okay. Mrs. Sullivan,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan.
Yes.
It hereby passes, and I'll just read those into the record. A, approval minutes, January 5, 2021, organizational school committee meeting. B, approval of minutes, January 19th, 2021, accounts review subcommittee meeting report. I, acceptance of December 9, 2020, diversity, race, equity, and inclusion report. M, acceptance of notification, personnel appointments, non-certified. N, acceptance of notification, personal action, leaves of absences, resignations, and retirements. They have passed. I'm going to go to Mr. Sullivan right now, just because he has only requested one. H is what, Tim, the floor is yours.
Yes. Item H, the Security, Safety, and Transportation Subcommittee met on December 9th, 2020 virtually. Was called to order at 5:18 p.m. Quorum was established. Myself, Tim Sullivan, Chair, Ms. Joyce Azaker, and Mr. Tony Rodriguez. The agenda was 1, purchase of buses, 2, DOT, COPS School Violence Prevention Program, and 3, other business. There was a motion made by Ms. Azak to authorize Superintendent Michael Thomas to send a letter to the mayor requesting appropriation for the transportation in buses and transportation in the city of Brockton. A roll call vote was taken. It was unanimous to be sent. On item 2, it was mentioned that there was a $500,000 grant given to the Brockton Public Schools for a 3-year period to be used for outside door locks and inside door locks. Item 3, there was no other business. The meeting was adjourned at 6:05. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Any questions from the committee relative to what Mr. Sullivan just talked about? If not, I'm going to entertain a motion relative to H.
Motion to approve item H as written.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Sullivan, properly seconded by Mr. D'Agostino. Do a roll. Chair Sullivan says yes. Vice Chair D'Agostino.
Yes.
Ms. Azak,
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez join us yet? Nope. Mrs. Sullivan,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan.
Yes.
Hereby passes. Again, H, acceptance of December 9, 2020 Security, Safety, Transportation Report passes. I'm now going to go to Judy Sullivan relative to C and D.
Okay, I just wanted to point out, I always like to point out the scholarships and any scholarships or donations. Item C was the Brian McSherry Memorial Scholarship. And it's submitted for school committee approval. And it's an amount of $500. And it goes to a candidate graduating from Brockton High School, accepted into an accredited 4-year college or university who plans to pursue a career in criminal justice. The GPA of 3.0 or higher is one of the requirements and has 30 or more credits attributed towards criminal justice degree. Has completed. Application requirements on the website. You have to write a 500-word essay about your future goals in the criminal justice field. Transcript may be requested. Deadline April 16th. And it goes to Judith Church And I think that students can contact their guidance counselor for more information on the Brian McSherry for Criminal Justice Scholarship. And item D was a donation from Miss Cindy Brown, sister of the late Miss Pam Brown, a grade 1 teacher at the Arnone School, donated $2,000 to the Arnone School. This donation was used to purchase string backpacks and a book for each pre-K through grade 5 student, which were distributed to the students earlier this school year. Each book contained a label acknowledging the very generous donation.
Thank you, Mrs. Sullivan. I'll entertain a motion relative to C and D.
I make a motion to approve item C, approval of the Brian McSherry Memorial Scholarship, and item D, acceptance of donation from Miss Cindy Brown.
Motion made.
Second.
D and D.
Motion was made by Mrs. Sullivan, properly seconded by Mr. Sullivan. I'll read the roll. Chair Sullivan says yes. Vice Chair D'Agostino,
Yes.
Ms. Azak,
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez,
yes,
Mrs. Sullivan,
Yes,
Mr. Sullivan.
Yes,
I don't believe Mr. Rodriguez or Mr. Mancello has joined us yet. It hereby passes. Again, C and D have been confirmed. We will now go to the vice chair for E, F, G, J, K, and L. Mark.
All right. Now that we've covered the alphabet tonight. All right. As I said, I'm going to make this pretty brief. A lot of the minutes I have to cover from December meetings, and because a lot of the actions we took in subcommittee needed votes in the month of December, I've already stated this stuff for the record in prior meetings, so I should be able to keep this pretty brief. So the policy subcommittee met December 8th of 2020. On the agenda for that evening, item 1, review of current COVID-19 metrics. There was some question and answers of the committee members. Item 2, revisit reopening plan. Again, there was some comment and discussion from the members of the committee. Winter sports guidance. There was some questions and answers and discussion from the members of the committee. Number 4, data information. And within that, we looked at first term failure rate, attendance, and engagement rates throughout the district. Let's see. Then there was some questions and answers from the members of the committee and some discussion as well. Item number 5. There was other business, and there was one item. The superintendent mentioned that he had received the signed memorandum of understanding between DESE and Brockton Public Schools. All right. Curriculum subcommittee met on December 8th. Item 1, presentation of the school-based strategic improvement plan. We received a presentation from the Baker Elementary School. During that presentation on PowerPoint, we heard their turnaround practice 1, leadership, shared responsibility, teacher collaboration. They talked about focus groups, then turnaround practice 2, instructional practice for improving instruction, reviewed their initiatives and instructional expectations, turnaround practice 3, student-specific supports and interventions, and turnaround practice 4, school culture and climate, and social emotional supports. Committee had an opportunity for question and answers, and there was some discussion. I'm sorry, that was the Arnone School, and then the Baker School went next. I apologize for confusing those. And in their PowerPoint, they shared with us a discussion about Bobcat Pride, student accountability percentiles, demographics, students with disabilities, Baker School at a glance, and gave us a breakdown of the school demographics, and shared with us the accountability results for the students with disabilities, looked at the timeline moving forward, where they are today, the improvement plan, shared with us turnaround practice, leadership, shared responsibility and professional collaboration, turnaround practice 2, intentional practices for improving instruction, turnaround practice 3, student-specific supports and instruction, and turnaround practice 4, culture and climate. Talked about stakeholder engagement and then the long-term vision of the school. There was some comment and question from members of the committee. The final item, other business, there was no other business and the meeting was adjourned. December 8th also had a finance subcommittee meeting. We were very busy December 8th. Item number 1, Plymouth County CARES Act update. And the mayor gave us an update about the CARES Act funds that we had received as a city. Agenda item number 2, the FY 2021 budget. Agenda item 3, FY 2022 budget. There were several questions and answers asked by members of the committee. Item number 4 was other business. And then at that time, the committee went into executive session. And then after the executive session, the meeting was adjourned. All right. Almost there. December 15th was also a busy evening for the school committee. We started the evening with a curriculum subcommittee. We saw a presentation for school-based strategic improvement plans. West turnaround plan. They reviewed with us the goals and several benchmarks within those goals. We talked about technology and remote learning, the school media and Instagram and other social media pages and how they're using them. Mr. Campbell answered several questions from members of the committee. And under other business, there was no other business. The meeting was adjourned. Then also December 15th, we had a policy subcommittee. Item number 1 was a review of the current COVID-19 metrics, which Mayor Sullivan shared with us some information on. Then we revisited the reopening plan with the superintendent. There was a question and answer and discussion, which was discussed in greater detail at that meeting. The third item was other business, and there was no other business. The meeting was adjourned. And I believe finance. Oh, I know I missed one. Almost done. Okay. December 15th also had a finance subcommittee meeting. Agenda item number 1 was discussion of the executive director of equity, diversity, and inclusion position. Mrs. Mendez, the chair of the diversity, race, equity, and inclusion subcommittee, led the discussion about the position, how it was funded by a Nellie Mae grant, and what the position would entail and the benefit to the district. The committee did vote to allocate $130,000 to $150,000 at that time to this position. And then under agenda item number 2, and the committee voted unanimously to approve that. Under agenda item number 2 was other business, and there was no other business, and the meeting was adjourned, and that is all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Any questions by any members relative to what the Vice Chairman just discussed and reviewed with us? Seeing none, I'm going to entertain a motion, please. Or a motion?
Motion to accept items E, F, G, H,
E, F, G, J, K, and L.
E, F, G, J, K, and L.
Second.
There's a motion made by Mrs. Sullivan, is properly seconded by Mr. D'Agostino. I'll take a roll call. Chair Sullivan says yes. Vice Chair D'Agostino?
Yes.
Ms. Azak,
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez,
Yes.
Mr. Minicello, not yet. Mr. Rodriguez, not yet. Mrs. Sullivan,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan.
yes,
Hereby passes again E, F, G, J, K, and L, and that concludes agenda item 3, which is the consent agenda. We will now go into agenda 4, which is the report of the superintendent of schools. And again, we did take Dr. Herman out of order so we could go to learning and teaching cohorts. Mr. Superintendent. Mike, I think you're muted.
Sorry, Mayor.
Nope.
Thank you. So following up on Dr. Herman's report, and then also we'll move into cohorts, but I know the committee tonight has to visit the target dates for coming back to school. Also, we do have to review the metrics we've been using. Obviously, our policy does state that we need to be in yellow. So we need to talk about that. And obviously, there has not been a date set for students other than the students with disabilities. So, we should discuss that now.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I'll open it up to the committee, please.
And just a couple other things, May I want to point out. I want to thank you. I want to thank, Mr. DiAgostino. I want to thank Dr. Cobbs, Dr. Murray for their work up at the high school for getting ready for, working on the vaccinations. I also want to thank Kim Gibson, who's been pushing with the MTA, the governor's office to get these vaccines rolled out. And I know, Mayor, you have spoken to DPH and you haven't been as happy with the rollout of how the vaccines are coming in. So I don't know if you have any updates on that, because we really do want to push. And I know this committee is sending a letter, I believe, along with the city council. And myself will be sending a letter to the governor asking for educators to be moved up or just to get the vaccine out here quicker. We are ready to give the vaccine out at Brockton High. It's been, it went very well with the first responders. And our school nurses, along with the Board of Health, have done a tremendous job, along with Brewster Ambulance and with the leadership of the mayor, Dr. Montesor and also Dr. Herman. I mean, we're ready to give out vaccines. It's just the problem is, and the mayor can follow up, we just don't have them.
Yeah,
and we really don't have any information on when they're coming.
Yeah, no, it's, I just want to follow up on what the superintendent just said. It's extremely frustrating to have the size of the city of Brockton with the population and receive 200 vaccines today, 200. I mean, it's ludicrous. We received 600 to use our first responders, which was 2 weeks ago. We did it flawlessly. And, to receive 200 just makes no sense whatsoever. So, myself and Steve Hook from BEMA and Dr. Rick Herman and Montesor from Board of Health, we have a standing call every day at 10:45. We've been including Brewster Ambulance and also Linda Cahill for the school nurses. So what Mike said is 100% accurate. We're ready, willing, and able to do it. We have the personnel, we have the skilled clinicians. We just don't have the medicine to put in people's arms right now. And it's not unique to Brockton. As Dr. Rick said, I did a county-wide call the other day. I created 2 different task force. One's the county with all town managers and of the respective towns in the county, all 27. And then I do a regional, which is all the towns that touch Brockton, plus Bridgewater and Randolph. And we're all saying the same thing, like we're getting no leadership whatsoever. So, in terms of when we can get these out to teachers, it's unknown. I mean, in terms of the phases, I have my own opinion on phases, but the phases are what the phases are right now, according to DPH. And it's very frustrating because I know that we need to take care of our staff and our teachers and our senior citizens as well. I mean, folks are going to have to travel to Gillette Stadium right now to get shots if you're 75 years of age and older. That's ludicrous. We don't live that close to Gillette. A lot of our seniors are not mobile, don't have cars, infirmed. So I share the sentiments of what Mike is saying. We don't have an update. I can tell you I had a really detailed call on Friday with Dr. Mary Brophy. She's an MD Dr. Brophy heads our Board of Health. She's the chairwoman of the Board of Health. I need a standing order from a doctor to get more tests to follow up from what Ms. Azek had inquired about last week. It was a great question. The process in place right now is we need to get a standing order from a medical clinician, an MD, to then be able to go out and procure additional testing. So, there is a process in place. I'm working as diligently as I can, but I'm getting really fed up with DPH not giving us the information. To drop off 200 vaccines with a population of over 100,000 is just ludicrous. So that's where we are right now. When I get updates, anything further, I will provide that, but I don't have the magic answer. My phone's blowing up all the time. People calling me saying, when can my mother or my grandmother get shots? I don't know. Teachers that I respect and honor, including one of my siblings, are asking, when are we in line? Funeral home directors are asking me, dentist office are asking me. I hear you. School bus drivers are asking as well. So, we need to figure out, and this letter that we're going to be sending to Governor Baker, I proudly will sign. And I want to thank Mike and his team for taking the lead on that. It's power in numbers, right? So we have the school committee with the city council, with the state delegation, we have myself, and we need to continue to rattle the cages because, as we know, those that grew up here, those that serve proudly as elected officials, a lot of times the City of Champions does not get what we need, and it's really frustrating. So this is just another frustration level right now due to this vaccine rollout. Thanks, Mike.
Mayor.
Mr. D'Agostino, please.
Yeah, just two things. On the superintendent mentioned the letter that you, me, and the superintendent had worked on and or had wanted to do, and I have to thank Jess again for drafting the actual draft of the letter. So we come up with some good ideas, but Jess sure makes them look presentable for sure. So I did send that to the members of the committee, and we do just want to get everybody, if you can this evening, if you haven't already, replied back to me to just confirm, your approval. We don't want to put your name on something without you, seeing it and having a chance to say, yes, I want my name on this. So if you can do that this evening, because we want to get that out the door tomorrow. And the long and short of it is the governor wants the teachers back in school so bad. Move them up in the vaccination list, off from the vaccination then. I don't see why that's such a toothache, but for the governor to do that, it seems like a no-brainer. But that said, I think the superintendent had asked the committee to take up the issue of the reopening date for all of the students who are not special education students, because we already took care of that in our last meeting in policy last week. But I'll just toss this out there. This doesn't mean this is what we have to do, but do we want to look at March 1 for a date, which would be, I think, about a week after the special ed students go back? Is that Mike? Yeah, that's a week.
That's the following week. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, as far as what we're watching for, I think early on, and the mayor and the superintendent and I kind of talked about this, the state had set guidance and we had set a 3 weeks, and Desi had said the same thing, 3 weeks yellow. And then right at the last minute, we started to go up, so I'll just throw this out there too. Maybe what we want to look for is just a downward trend. And then we can kind of see what that trend looks like and, but plan for March 1st. Just my thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Any thoughts relative to what the Vice Chairman talked about, or any additional? I see Ms. Azak has a hand raised. Joyce, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Like many of my other school committee members, my phone's been blowing off the hook the past few days between emails, phone calls, and actually I've been going out and reaching out to the constituents to see what they want. We are their voice. And a lot of the constituents, I'd probably say 99.9% of them want to stay remotely to keep their families safe. So I know I spoke with the superintendent last week, and a lot of them, the main concern that they have is if they do stay remote, they do have the choice to stay remote. But if they stay remote, they do not want to have their children start all over again with a new teacher. Have we gotten any further? I know there's a lot going on all at the same time. Have we figured anything out as far as trying to keep the students with some of their teachers? That's their
Well,
biggest
again, that-
concern. They've gotten into a routine. They finally they're in a routine. They're doing full remote. Now we're just going to uproot them and, switch teachers on them. That was like the biggest concern that they had. And
Yeah,
it,
oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, sorry. The thing is we're trying to work with the students, the families, the teachers, and everyone, trying to keep everyone safe. And we do have some parents that do want to send their kids back, but I'm telling you, the ones that I spoke to, 99.9%, I think there was only one family that wanted to send their kids back. Everyone else wanted to stay fully remote, and they're all saying stay till March. So the March, date sounds good, but at least give them a little time after the February break. I don't have my calendar on me, so I'm not sure when the February break is. So that was another concern everyone's bringing up is, oh, you're going to go right after February break. If they are doing any family gatherings or doing anything locally, a lot of people are doing, little getaways, and they're staying local within the family. But that was another concern that was brought to my attention is you're going to, and our numbers are still high. Our numbers are really still high. So if anyone's got anything.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Ms.
can
Dick.
respond
The week
to-
of the 15th, I believe, isn't it? February 15th, February
Yeah,
vacation.
it's the week of the 15th is the vacation.
Okay.
And so just Ms. Azak responding to students staying fully remote and be able to keep their same teacher. The issue with this, and again, I wish this was easier. The issue is staffing, because I mean, a lot of the talk is, have the teachers, we have 100 right now, 110 educators, and that's BEA members. And we also have another 30 or 40 paras and MTAs that have medical documentation to work remotely and stay working remotely. So that's obviously over about 160 staff members. The issue with and everybody said, well, we can just stream those teachers into the classroom for the students that are coming to school, and then the students at home can be remote. The issue is there has to be an adult person in the classroom with those students. And we are working hard to find staff, get as higher staff as far as paras and MTAs. The issue is staffing to be able to guarantee people to be able to keep students and parents that they could keep the same teacher if they choose to stay fully remote. I mean, that's something that we want to do. We're trying to do. The BA, the union's working with us, but we can't substitute people without having to backfill them. So we'll continue to work on that, but we unfortunately haven't been able to guarantee they would keep their same teacher if they stay fully remote. Because again, it comes down to making sure there's a adult in the classroom to be with those students.
No, thank you. And I do appreciate you working on that. I know it's not an easy task to try to figure how we're going to do this. The other thing is we are seeing numbers with the younger kids are rising as far as the numbers. And my other concern is we do vote to go back. Parents need stability. The parents that are working, for us to just, right now they know their children are remote. So they know what their work schedule is going to be like. They know how their children are going to be as far as it comes, as far as their schooling. But, to get that phone call up, we got to close, numbers are high. That's another concern is parents, they don't want to have their jobs on the line because they got to find last minute, childcare because, there's a positive case. And I just know from friends around, and coworkers, there doesn't a week go by that somebody doesn't say that their child in daycare or, it has to go get tested. So it's a regular thing where the young children are getting exposed to the virus and are getting the virus. That's why these numbers, I just think our numbers are much higher than we think they are. And I know everyone's working really hard to get us back, and we do need to get back into the schools as long as we get back into the schools safely, rather than we're going to bring everybody back in, then all of a sudden we're back to full remote. But so I do want to thank everyone, the superintendent and your executive team and the mayor, and actually my colleagues on the school committee. It's definitely not an easy decision what we're making. So, we have to try to work with everyone, but thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Azek. I'm going to go to Mrs. Sullivan, please. Judy, the floor is yours.
Just a question for Superintendent Thomas. We have already taken a survey of how many parents want to stay remote, right? Wasn't it something like 1,700?
It's close,
Students.
yeah, between 15 and 1,700, yeah.
Okay, so we have 15,000 in the school system. We only have 1,700 that want to stay remote. So I think that tells us something. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sullivan. Mr. Minicello, please.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry I was late. I was traveling the great highways today and just got in because of this, the weather. But I just want to say a couple of things. I know I caused a whole bunch of controversy at the last meeting, and I try to talk openly and honestly, and sometimes I should be more of a politician, but I'm not. So, and I think that some things that I said need to be clarified. First of all, when I said that certain students, special ed students, need their teachers, I mean that. The special ed students, most of them need their teachers. They do best when they're in front of their teachers. That's a compliment to the teachers. The teachers are very valuable, and those kids benefit when they're in front of their teachers. For many of them, it's harder to learn via the computer. When I said about the comments about babysitting, that was a mistake. What I meant to say was the babysitting was that there are so many parents that are home trying to assist their kids, babysitting their kids. But it came out wrong because I'm not as smooth as Tom Brady getting to the next Super Bowl. I'm not Tom Brady. I'm just Tom Minicello in Brockton. So that was a mistake and basically a fumble of words. So for that, I clarify. But what I just want to make sure people know, some people told me that my colleagues on the school committee were getting trashed because they didn't jump up and say and stop me or clarify. My colleagues on the school department, on the school committee, know me. I've told this 1,000 times that my concern in Brockton is that our students are going to be behind the 8 ball compared to different other school systems in the state. We have a great school system. We have great teachers, but we need, and I think our kids do the best when they're in front of their teachers. That is a compliment to the teachers. My school committee and fellow members and myself have been an advocate for the teachers of Brockton for years. I've been on the school committee for 14 years, and the teachers all know how we value them and how we fight for funding to be fair to the school system, the staff, the teachers, the students. So what disappointed me was that I got not one phone call from a teacher or anyone saying, "Hey, Tom, what did you say at the last meeting? I hear there's a big stir." I got 2 calls from 2 people that know me and basically I consider friends saying, "What happened? And we hear there's a big hullabaloo on Facebook and on the internet." I said, well, I said some things, but I made a mistake. And they said, so I said, but I'm shocked that no one's called me. You know, not one teacher has called me to say, what the heck went on the other night? But from what I hear, you know, everyone is all upset about it. Here's the bottom line. I put students first. I've always put students first, and I will always put the students of Brockton first and give them what they need. They need a safe environment. We all want our kids in a safe environment. We want our staff in a safe environment. So we have been very cautious up to this point, like we should be, and like we will continue to be. If we can have our students back in a safe manner, having them safe and our staff safe, we will do it. And that's what we should do. Other communities are doing it. We need to do it at some point. And that's a compliment to our teachers. They are excellent and our kids benefit when they are in front of them. End of story. But, you know, we have to recognize that there are no guarantees in life. Staff has gotten COVID. I don't know, Mr. Superintendent, how many of our staff have gotten COVID to this point in time, roughly?
Dr. Moran, do you have a number from last week that was reported to the state?
I can pull that up if you give me a couple minutes. I'll get it over to you.
Thank you.
Whatever the number is, the staff has gotten COVID without being in front of one student. People are going to get COVID. And God forbid someone gets very sick. We don't want that. But we have to do our best to participate in society. Our hospitals are working, our nurses are working, our police, our fire, the grocery store workers are working, the kid bagging the groceries for minimum wage is working, and they're working in Brockton. Brockton's not shut down. The law firms are working, the banks are working. We need to understand that there are no guarantees, and we certainly are not going to put at risk our staff. But we have to recognize that the students in Brockton do best when they're in front of you, the teachers. And that's all we're trying to do. We need to do it in a cautious way. But, you know, when I hear that the surrounding towns are doing hybrid, Stoughton, Abington, Boston's doing hybrid, you know, Lawrence is doing hybrid, Lowell is not doing hybrid, Fall River's doing hybrid. We need to do it in we need to bring kids back in a safe way. That's all I'm saying. That's my point. The babysitting comment was meant that the parents can't continue to stay home and babysit all the time because they need to work. I've heard from many parents who want to get back to work. It's a major expense for them. We even had teachers talk to us and say, it's going to be a major expense for me to stay home with my child. So we recognize that. So all I'm saying is, hey, the Brockton teachers are wonderful. The kids need you. That's the point. And we want to do it. We want to get kids back. We'll try to do it in a safe way. And, you know, we will continue to support the safety of all of our staff. But, you know, when other schools are back in session, Southeastern, Cardinal Spellman, the surrounding public schools in a hybrid mode, you know, we're in this together. We have to figure out a way to make it work, and we have to educate our kids. You know, that's the bottom line. There's no malice. There's no bad feelings. It's just a matter of we're all adults and we all have to take the steps to do our jobs and do it safely and get these kids what they need, especially those special ed kids. I'm going to end with this. When I saw that child, that clip of a video of a child sent to me, crying and crying, frustrated. This was a 5th grade child. It broke my heart. Special needs, that's what motivates me to get these kids what they need, you know, and if I'm guilty of that, that's fine. And I'm always going to say that we have to have a safe environment for our staff, but let's work together to try and make it work. Properly spaced, not bring everyone back at the same time. Do it in a responsible manner. That's my point. And if you're mad at me, fine. Don't take it out on my colleagues. Call me, and I'd love to have a chat with you. I never not answer my phone. So you know where to find me. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Minicello. Any other members of the committee have any questions or? Judy, did you have a follow-up?
No, I just wanted
Oh.
to address, this, Kim Gibson. My comment also, when I said teachers were getting it from socializing, I was speaking about the school system that I'm working in. And from what I see, it's not being transferred between children to the teacher. If the teacher gets it, it's either from the household or friends or whatever. But I don't know from what Dr. Herman has presented. It seems like a lot of cases are coming from the household. Okay, and I know a lot of my friends have had it and brought it home from work, and then their families get it. Anybody that knows me knows that I am a teacher myself, and I would never disrespect a teacher. The teachers of the Brockton Public Schools, I have been working for them and the students for 7 years now on the school committee, and I do not disrespect anyone. And if you have a problem with what I say, you can call me or email me. Please do not go to Facebook. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sullivan. Any other thoughts or comments relative to the matter that's before us? Mr. D'Agostino, please.
Yeah, if I may, two things. I think we get that everybody's at a high level of frustration with this, and we are happy to hear from teachers, happy to hear from constituents. Unfortunately, some of us heard from a resident who chose to yell and swear and cuss us out. And so I'll say that, we want to have dialogue with any parent, any constituent, but we're not here to be abused either. So while people are upset, and we get that, and let's be honest, I'm so done with this COVID thing. I can't even begin to describe how done with this I am. And I think everybody is at that place, but we still have to just treat each other with a little respect. And so I would say, to teachers and members of the public and anybody, we're here to listen to you. Just remember that we're not here to be abused by you either. So that's all. I know we've got to, take some action here, and I have a visitor that's joining me for a minute. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
So May, if I can chime back in, I would really like to see us move forward to plan on making sure we have testing in place before students return. I think that's it. And I know we're working on that. I'm working with the Department of Ed. The Department of Ed has a program called pool testing, where they do offer testing to students and our staff. Unfortunately, that testing goes away on March 28th, and then the district is left to pick that up on their own, which we're fine, because the mayor has said that, we would look to purchase our own tests. He's already looking for the doctor to write the order, so we could order the tests, and we could come up with a plan for testing. But I think it is important for us to have testing, and in this, not anything the school committee hasn't mentioned is about testing. So, I think it's important for us to have that in place. It's important for us to also keep pushing for the virus. And I agree that, I think it was Mr. D'Agostino and Mr. Minicello, that we cannot bring back large number of students until we have, a plan in place with, obviously with the testing, and see where we're going with the virus, and we have a plan, when I talk about cohorts, to obviously start with only a 25% number, but I still think we need to continue to see a downward trend in the numbers as we go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Ms. Azek's hands raised.
Thank you. One question. I was a little surprised to hear that there was only 1,700 replies to the survey that was sent out. Given that we have about 15 to 16,000 students, 1,700 is a very low number. is there any way that we can have our schools reach out to the families? Maybe the families are not realizing that the text messages they're getting are part of a survey, because I do get those text messages myself and I don't always click on them right away. Is there a way that the actual schools can reach out to the families and
No, I
see if our
can, what we
numbers?
can do is Jess can run another survey. Short, very short, whether you're gonna send your student back to school or keep them home. And it just basically 2 questions. And then I'll make a call. We'll get that out, but it wasn't only 1,700 that replied, about 5,000 replied, and 1,700 is how many students that said, parents that said the students wouldn't be coming back to school. That's obviously, that's, there could be more than one child in the household, but the report is about 1,700 students would stay fully remote, no matter how we came back to school. But I believe about 5,000 parents responded to the survey.
Okay, and do you know offhand when that was sent out? Was it around Christmas time or was it more recent?
I think it was right around Christmas time, yes, but we can
Okay.
send another one this week.
Or if there's any way that the schools can actually just notify them that a survey is also coming out,
Yeah, I
just
can
so
do a
parents are
call.
on the lookout for it.
Yeah, I can do the call. I can do the main call, and then the schools can follow up the following day with another call the principals can do.
Okay, because I do know we were having an issue with the text messages back in October. I do know a lot of Ward 6 families were having issues with it. Are we with a new company now? Because I know if you got that.
Not yet. We
Okay.
have it down to 2 companies. We'll be switching over soon, but we have ironed out the issues with the text messages. So again, we'll send out the survey. I'll work with Jess tomorrow, keep it very simple, send it out again, and then I'll make a call telling parents to please complete it. And then I'll also have the principals follow up with a call after the day after I'll do a call, and then they'll do a call reminding people.
Okay, there's no way of putting that survey onto our BPS website?
Yeah, it always goes on the website too.
Okay,
Yep.
because I do know a lot of my families are having issues, so I'll have them just reach out.
Yep.
A couple of them have had issues with the texting, so we just want to make sure that we hear everyone that is replying to that.
Thanks, Ms. Azek. Any additional questions, concerns, comments, or any motion want to be made at this time?
Mayor, I also want to say that, I, again, thank you, Mr. Michello and Ms. Sullivan and the school committee. And, I know how many years that you've been on the committee and how much you've supported teachers. And there's, again, no place I'd rather work and be for my 29 years in Brockton. I walked a picket line my 2 years into my tenure as a teacher. And, there's nothing like the teachers in Brockton. Never has been, never will be. And obviously we know that, they're a far cry from babysitters. None of us would ever think that. And I can't commend them enough for what they've done over the last, since March 12th. Again, what we've done as a district and with your leadership and your support, to switch to a one-to-one district and to remote teaching would take most districts our size 3 to 5 years to complete that kind of a process. If you said to us, you need to plan that and do that, you'd say, give me about 3 to 5 years to get that all in place. And, we were able to do that in, 3 to 6 months. So, again, I can't say enough of the job that teachers have done, along with all other support staff. And again, with the support of the school committee and the mayor. So I just wanted to make sure we said that before we got any comments in.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I'm going to go to Mr. Minicello, followed by Ms. Azek with hands raised. Mr. Minicello.
Yeah, thank you, Superintendent Thomas. The Brockton teachers have always know how valuable this school committee feels they are to this district. We, for the last 6 years, we've done everything we can to not lay off Brockton teachers, okay? We have done everything else to not lay off teachers. We have done everything we can do to fight against charter schools, because charter schools in Brockton weren't necessary because of our district and our Brockton teachers. You know, I'm glad everyone out there is so perfect, you know, and, you know, sometimes when you love a city and you love what it provides to our students, you know, you get a little zealous. So, you know, if I said the wrong thing, well, I'm sorry, but I would think that people would give me the benefit of the doubt for all of the time that I've put in to this city and this school district. I am the biggest cheerleader for the city of Brockton because of all the things that this city provides to our kids. And we've always said it, Brockton and the education in Brockton is the equalizer for our residents. That's what makes Brockton so special. That's why our kids can go to any school if they do well in Brockton, and a lot do because of what we have, our teachers. So if everyone out there would like me to say, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Yeah, I misspoke and I'm sorry for what I said if you take it the wrong way. But let me tell you something. The teachers in Brockton know that we fight for them. We try not to let the budget affect them. And we've always done that, and we always will. But our students come first, and that will always be the way it has to be. Adults come second, students come first. End of story. So I think that this school committee has always advocated for our district and certainly our teachers. So, you know, I love this city, and I know that our kids go the places they go because of what we offer them. So, you know, that's all I'm going to say. You know, the COVID is a stressful time for everyone. Absolutely. We're all pent up. We're all tired of it. And certainly nobody's perfect, and I'm certainly not perfect. But you know, I think that this school committee advocates and will always advocate for the entire district, and students come first. So that, yeah, that's all I'm going to say on the matter. And end of story.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tom. Mr. Manchello, thank you. I'm going to go to Ms. Azak again, please, Joyce.
Sorry about that. Honestly, I didn't realize so many Ward 6 residents were watching this evening. So I'm happy that everyone's tuning in and staying updated. So a lot of them, I had to shut my phone off. So I guess we do have a little bit of an issue with the survey. A lot of them are not getting the text messages. So we do need to see what's going on with that. Maybe have our individual schools reach out to the families. And, you know, when they do the survey, is it for one student, or do they give them a chance to say how many students they're responding as far as the survey? How many students are in their family? Or is it just a basic yes or no? It doesn't give you a chance to say how many children you have in the family. Because one family could probably have 4 or 5 children that are in our BPS schools.
It absolutely takes into consideration every child they have.
Okay, perfect. And then a lot of them are not getting the text messages. So we will have to maybe take a look and see what's going on, and see if we can try to see why. Maybe they're overlooking the text messages, or maybe their phone service provider is just not letting the messages go through. But, you know, I did get a lot of messages that they're not getting these texts. So a lot of people were not aware of the surveys. So before the next one goes out, if we can somehow make sure that everyone's on the lookout for it. That way they know a survey is coming out and they have the opportunity to reply. They'll have plenty of time to reply to that survey. So as always, Superintendent, you're doing an amazing job, like the rest of our BPS families, our teachers, and our staff. Is just a lot of the parents just want to be a part of that survey. So if we want to just make sure that they get the text messages. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Azak. I see Mrs. Sullivan with her hand raised, please.
I also would just like to say, if I hurt anybody's feelings, I'm sorry. It wasn't meant to be harsh or anything that I said. And if any teacher or parent or student needs to talk, I'm here all the time. I'm ready to take your call. You're not bothering me. So just pick up the phone, give me a call. If you have a problem with what I say, please call me or email me. My email is on the Brockton Public School website. And if I hurt anyone's feelings, I'm very sorry. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. I see Mr. Sullivan with his hand raised, followed by Mr. D'Agostino, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion on the lines of Mr. D'Agostino. And the motion has a little bit of a caveat to it. I'm not even sure we can go through as it is. But the motion is to bring back the students on March 1st, if we go down to the yellow, or at least in a downward close to the yellow. And hopefully at that time, the vaccines and the testing will be in place.
The only just point of information on that motion, when we took the original vote, the yellow classification and red and green were based in a different, they were based on different statistics and metrics. And then because so many communities throughout the Commonwealth were in red, they changed the game, right? Now, it didn't impact Brockton because we were already based upon those hard numbers. So it is a little bit, the yellow that we took the original vote is not the yellow classification that would be deemed now. So I just wanted to get that in the record because it did change over time from the Commonwealth. So I just wanted to make sure everyone's clear on that. Mr. Sullivan.
I just wanted to make it that at least it's going down in the downward direction and it's staying there. And hopefully the vaccines will be in place and the testing, more testing will be available.
Okay, that's a motion made by Mr. Sullivan. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
There's a second on the motion. I see Joyce. Joyce, do you have your hand raised on the motion?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I guess let me take that off.
That's okay, no worries. So there's a motion made by Mr. Sullivan. It was properly seconded by Mr. D'Agostino. I see the superintendent has a question
Question.
on the motion.
So I'd like to, again, a school committee to have a vote, but obviously, but I would like to really come back next Tuesday. Again, we take a vote tonight, but I'd really to give much more information about the testing that we can put in place. I don't know the way the information's been coming out about the vaccine. I don't know how much information we're going to have for that, but I'm sure the mayor will continue to give us updates on the vaccine. And obviously we would, get our educators vaccinated quickly once it's available. But I would we really would like to have more, information on testing. So we are able to test for the staff and students that want them. We want to make sure that is in place when students return.
Duly noted. Thanks, Mr. Superintendent. Just to let the committee know, I mean, Mike and I had an in-depth conversation again today about the testing. The standing order is required again by an MD. And again, Dr. Brophy is vetting that out. There's a 3-member committee, Dr. Craig Andrade, PhD, Dr. Mary Brophy, MD, and George Fisk, that are the 3 members of the Board of Health. And again, Dr. Eno Mondesor, who's a PhD, heads up the Board of Health. So we all agree relative to the testing notion, but the process in place to acquire through procurement, again, first step is to get the standing order from a medical doctor. So I hear what the superintendent said. I'll provide updates relative to the rollout of the vaccine. Again, I'm not confident that we're going to get the number that we need at this time, but we'll continue our efforts. So there's a motion on the floor. It was properly made by Mr. Sullivan, seconded by Mr. D'Agostino. Any questions on the motion, or should we take a roll call at this time?
On the motion?
On the motion, Mr. D'Agostino.
Can I just, and I apologize, Mr. Sullivan, I just want to make sure that we're clear. So we're saying March 1st, provided that there is a continuing downward trend in our numbers.
Correct.
Okay, that's all I need.
Thank you,
And-
Mark.
and
Go
He
ahead.
also said something about testing as well, I believe, in the motion, correct?
Yes, the vaccine will be available in Brockton and the testing would be available as well. hopefully that's in place by March 1st.
Judy, you had your hand raised on the motion?
Yes, which testing are we talking about? Because if it's testing kids, there's no one doing that even now with the schools that are open. There's no
Yeah, some,
testing.
Ms.
of
Sullivan,
children.
some are with the pool testing the state's offering. It's optional. It cannot be mandatory. And it's only if a parent would want to do that. It's mostly with, right now that is on option for pool testing, which we would, if we're allowed to go get the test kits, we would offer it for students, especially as you see the numbers for older students that parents would want, students that are in, middle school, high school, the older students, but also having the option for teachers to get tested as well. I don't know how many districts across the state are having, there are districts now doing the pool testing. The state's rolling out a new a second wave of pool testing, and that ends on the 28th. So, I don't know how much we can, buy into that. It might be just we do our own, and because the state's going to leave us high and dry on the 28th of March anyway. But there are some districts, I can get the list from the state, from the Department of Ed, of what districts are offering it for students, but it's only an offer. It can't be mandatory. It's just for safety and obviously for recognizing positive cases, identifying them earlier, and obviously having people quarantine and having a plan in place for that.
Thank you. I just, are we still planning on the after February vacation for the high needs though? Is that still on the?
That was voted
Is that
on
what
last week.
still-
So that date was given last week by the school committee, and I think the motion was that, did we have in the motion that we obviously would need to continue the downward?
No, because you said you didn't want to have it push it back again.
Yep.
So now I'm confused on what we're doing.
This is for the vote on the special needs students was last week.
And that's still going forward for after February vacation?
As of right now, that's the committee's vote, yes.
Okay, because,
Just point of information, it was for Tuesday, February 23rd for our special interest and special needs students, but also to allow the parent to decide if they still wanted that individual student to stay remote. What's before us now is a March date that was made. The other just point of information, and I'm learning a lot about testing, right? So in terms of testing, people have to be trained to do the testing as well. So, there's a standing order, there's the acquisition of the test, there's the training capacity. So, the superintendent and I, Mike and I talk a couple times each day, and the vice chair is involved in many of those conversations. So we need to continue that effort. But the motion that's on the floor was made by Mr. Sullivan, properly seconded by Mr. D'Agostino. I'm going to call the roll. The chair says yes. The vice chair,
Yes.
Ms. Azak,
No.
Mrs. Mendez, Mrs. Mendez,
Yes.
Mr. Menoncello,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan,
yes,
Mr. Sullivan.
Yes,
The motion has passed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to 1. It has passed. Thank you very much for your efforts on that. Superintendent was still at the report, agenda item 4.
Yeah, so basically it's following up on the cohorts, just so that the committee knows that the plan for coming back, we are going to start, when we do start, we're going to keep to the 25%, which we have spoke about, which would be 4 cohorts of students. And that would be pretty much, if we start in March, that would be for the month of March. And then we would come back in the hybrid of 2 days a week. Again, getting students used to being back in school, parents used to, the drop off, the pickups, the transportation, being on buses, the cleaning procedures that take place that we'll be doing in the schools every day, throughout the day. how students are going to pass through the hallways, use the restrooms. You know, we won't be eating in classrooms. They will be eating in cafeterias. So if the March dates, if we still stay in the downward trend in the March 1st date, actually the return to school would be March 2nd, because Mondays would stay remote, where all the students would continue to meet with their teachers together as a class. And then Tuesday, the 2nd would be, and that would be when we brought back again in 25% groups, we would bring back pre-K and K at the elementary schools. We'd bring back 6th grade at the middle schools and 9th grade at Brockton High School. And then the following weeks, and again, we'll lay this out for parents as we get closer, that the weeks of the 9th, the 16th, we would then phase the other students in at the 25% to keep, again, the numbers in the classrooms would stay low, and get everybody used to being back in the building, make sure we're servicing the social, emotional needs of our students, making sure we're supporting our staff. And again, we would do that 25% through March, and then hopefully by that time, vaccines are rolled out and we can start to bring in students in larger groups as we get into early, into April. So I just want to make sure the committee was fine with that plan. We'll lay out a timeline to make it more clear, but right now that's the plan we would go with. And again, I think that's the safest way to return to school, especially with the size of our buildings. Brockton High at 4,200, the Davis at over 1,000, the Baker, the George close to 1,000. Places like the Hancock, the Raymond are up around 700 students. We have large schools, and obviously, our middle schools are now, other than North, they're all over 700. The Plouffe is close to 850, I believe. So we do have big schools as far as population, but some of them have limited space. So I think with the 25%, that's the way to come back. And again, we'll keep you posted. And I think who made a good point earlier, actually Miss Azak, is that we will have to keep an eye on staffing, because if we get into a situation, and the mayor mentioned this last week about Situate, they ended up having several students and staff members that ended up being either COVID positive. I ended up having to quarantine, and that school had to go quickly to a remote model. And, we have to take that into consideration, because we would have to switch from in-school to remote quickly. And that will be an inconvenience for parents, because it's very difficult to plan when, you're taking care of your daycare issues and things are going well. And then the next week, again, and it could turn on a moment's notice that now we're going remote for a week or two. And, those are things we're going to have to make sure we communicate well. And a lot of that is unpredictable depending on cases and close contacts.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I also think at our next policy subcommittee, in addition to Dr. Rick Herman, I'm going to invite Dr. Eno Montesor to come and give a presentation relative, because he speaks to DPH every single day. It's a standing time relative to vaccines. And I think, his insight could be helpful as well as the committee. So if nobody objects, I'll invite Dr. Montesor to our next subcommittee.
Be happy to have him.
Thank you. We'll keep going on, Mr. Superintendent.
Yeah, transportation. I can have Dr. Cobbs jump in. He's been working closely with Peggy Kalea and Marcia Andrade Serper on just making sure when students do return that transportation is in place. He's been working closely with First Student and also with a lot of our private companies. First Student has been servicing students at Cardinal Spellman, Trinity Catholic, the North Fork Aggies, and they also have been running students that are attending schools, outside placement schools. They've been making those transportation runs as well. So Dr. Cobbs can give us an update on the work he's been doing with the Parent Information Center and also with First Student and our other bus and van providers.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So we as Superintendent Thomas said, we are in the process of, we pretty much have the bus routes scheduled with the first student provider. They are in the process of rehiring their drivers to bring them back to transport 350 of our special needs students to their schools. And we're in the process of scheduling, now that we have approval, we have a date pretty much certain for the other students to return to schools. We're in the process of, we have the routes mapped out with Peggy Calais has been worked diligently to map out all the routes for the 25% cohort students to return. So at this point, we should not have any problems with our service provider for students to transport the students on demand on the 23rd and the 1st of March.
Any questions for Dr. Cobbs? Also, is Melinda, is Mike in charge of the chat? If we want to post something?
Mike Simmons?
Yes, or is it you?
Let me check with him. I believe it's him.
All right, so if he can post and just information about the text messaging. So if you change providers or change your phone number, you have to re-enroll. We're not allowed to keep texting you and asking people to re-enroll. It's against the law for us to make phone calls and continue. You can only do one outreach a year as far as that goes. So we try to do it through our website. We try to do it with, through phone calls. So if you can put this in the chat, it's, you have to text yes to 67587. And then you would get a response that you've been enrolled in the BPS notification system. So again, the number, you have to text yes to 67587. That's the number. And if for some reason you don't get a response, that you've been enrolled into to receive notifications from us, then you would call your child's school and let them know, and we will work to get that problem rectified, and we'll continue to make that. I'll put that on our website, and also I'll put it in my phone call as well when I make the phone call to parents.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I see Mr. Mincello had a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one more thing, Mr. Mayor. I just want to remind everyone that there are so many students in Brockton who the Brockton Public Schools was the most stable and safe environment. Unfortunately, there are too many of those students where the Brockton Public Schools provides the stability and the safe environment and the nutrition and nurturing and care. So, I get it, but I just want people to remember that there are so many kids in this public school system that need adults, that need the adults of the school system, the teachers and the staff who have always shown how much they care for them and have been the rock or the stability that these kids need. That's it. That's where we're all coming from, our concern for kids. I mean, that's why everyone's in this business. That's why teachers are in this business, and that's why we're all involved. I get it. We have to be safe, but just remember, our public school system is so unique and provides so much to so many of our student population.
Thank you, Mr. Minicello. We'll continue. Nobody had it, and I want to thank Dr. Cobbs. Let me just take a quick moment. Dr. Cobbs has been unbelievable with the transportation, but he's wearing many hats, and we had a really wonderful meeting yesterday in the Yellow Cafeteria with the representatives from Eversource. And Jim's been running point on that. I just want to publicly thank Dr. Cobbs, and he is someone that really cares about his profession, and he's truly a gentleman. So Dr. Cobbs, thank you for your efforts on that.
Thank you, Mayor.
We're going to continue, Mr. Superintendent, if we could, please.
Yep. So next is the actually, it's the recognition of the Allen and Toby Bolotsky Charitable Fund Grant. Dr. Bolotsky has been known in Brockton for several years. Actually, my children went to Dr. Bolotsky. So he is making a donation. So we're asked to recognize him tonight as Dr. Alan Bolotsky and his wife Toby for a grant donation from their charitable fund to $500 in memory of the Hirsch family of Brockton. So that is going into the BEF, and it will be a scholarship provided to a high school student. And it will be for them to attend college, and we'll get you more information once. They'll have stipulations in the grant for applicants, and that will be coming soon, but we wanted to recognize Dr. Bolotsky and his wife tonight. And we thank them for their generous donation.
Superintendent, if I could, I've known Dr. Bolotsky and Mrs. Bolotsky for decades. My mom was a nurse at Dr. Bolotsky's office at 201 Quincy Street. Many of our students and us had Dr. Bolotsky as a pediatrician. Now Dr. Hausman and Dr. Blanchard run it over 201 Quincy Street. But Dr. Bolotsky and his wife, just very generous folks. And he's not just a great doctor, he's an unbelievable artist as well. So Dr. B, on behalf of Brockton Public Schools, thank you, and Toby, for your efforts and your generosity. We'll continue on the agenda.
Thank you. Next is we have Soraya DeBarros, Dr. DeBarros with us. And we have the chair of the Community School Advisory Board, Mr. Bath. And they are just coming to you tonight for the approval of their new logo.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan, Superintendent Thomas, and Vice Chairman D'Agostino, and ladies and gentlemen of the school committee. We're here again. It was a little bit over a month that we were here, and as part of our rebranding efforts of the community schools, we would like to share with you a proposed logo and slogan. So I'm going to share my screen so that you can see it. And like I said, this is an effort to rebrand our community schools. Okay. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the current logo that we have. It's the schoolhouse, and then Brockton Community Schools. The slogan is play, move, learn, and grow. Okay. And as part of the rebranding, we're looking at a more contemporary look, a look that will stand out, that has a visual appeal for an audience that keeps evolving. As you know, Brockton has evolved throughout the years. We also want a logo that represents the community. It also has the Brockton colors. So you probably are guessing what colors we have picked. It also encompasses all the programs and activities that are put forth by the Community Schools Office, which target the educational, cultural, recreational, and social needs of Brockton. We're also looking for a logo that fosters a desire for lifelong learning, achievement, and service in students. So students young and old as well. And also we're looking into having a logo that highlights a whole umbrella, a whole array of partnerships. You have heard me say this many times. We don't work in silos, we work in partnerships. And we are looking and establishing and continuing partnerships in the areas of health, of social services, of academics, of sports, recreation, culture, and so forth and so on. So this is what we are proposing to you. This is our logo that we have been working on. Michelle Bolton and Sign Design have been working a lot on this, and we have had the blessing of the advisory board, and it's very good to have Professor Bass here with us. And this is the logo, black and white and red, Community Schools of Brockton. And the slogan will be, if approved, a partnership for learning, enrichment, and empowerment. So this is the difference, where we would like a slight change to the name. Instead of Brockton Community Schools, we're looking to have community schools. So like I said before, it encompasses all the activities that we're doing, and it's more targeted towards the community. And it's still under the umbrella of the Brockton Public Schools. And the slogan, instead of having play, move, learn, and grow, we're looking to have a partnership for learning, enrichment, and empowerment. It's that simple. And with that being said, that was, I cannot leave it up, so I'll just change it. I'll go back. So nice and short. And like I said, we went back and forth with the slogan, with the name. We wanted it to continue to be related to the community. So that's why we ended up choosing Community Schools of Brockton. And like I said, the slogan is very encompassing of what we do.
Dr. DeBarros and Professor Beth, thank you. I think that's brilliant. I love it. I support it. But I open it up now to any of my colleagues that may have questions or any thoughts at this time. Mrs. Sullivan, please.
Hi, yes, thank you, Dr. DeBarros and Mr. Bath. So if we approve this, then does it go to the Community Schools Board next? The board members?
Yes, we have the advisory board. We have been working as part of the strategic team. We have been rebranding and looking at every single program and going through everything. So for the past few months, we have been meeting in a small group, a group of 8 people, so that we can plan, we can have a strategic meeting, strategic plan, and Mr. Bass can speak more about that. And this is all part of that strategy that we're trying to create. We're trying to base on the past, on what was done, and a lot was done on the past, but we're trying to rebrand it so people understand what we stand for, and it also shows all the programs that we have been doing. It showcases Brockton and the community.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mrs. Sullivan. Any additional comments or questions for either professor or doctor from any members of the school committee? Mr. Sullivan, please.
Yes, I would like to say, Mr. Barrows and Mr. Bath, I love it. I think it's a great idea. I am 100% for it.
Thank you.
At this time, we can entertain a motion if it's the will of the school committee.
I make a motion.
No,
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
All right. Motion to approve the new logo and, oh geez, drawn a blank.
The slogan.
Slogan.
Thank you. Slogan. The new logo and slogan of the community schools of Brockton.
Second.
There's a motion made by Mr. D'Agostino, properly seconded by Mrs. Sullivan. We'll call the roll. The chair, Sullivan, says yes. Vice chair.
Yes.
Ms. Azak. Joyce.
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Mendez.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Minicello.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Sullivan.
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Sullivan.
Yes.
Thank you. Hereby passes unanimous. Thank you again, Doctor and Professor. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to continue on the agenda as we still have quite a few items. Mr. Superintendent, D.
D is the first read of the 2021-2022 district calendar. I'll just highlight a couple of spots. We do not need a vote on this tonight. We would need one at the next official school committee meeting. Again, this is the district calendar that just goes over the starting date of school, the ending date of school, and also the legal holidays and the school vacation. So right now, The teachers would return on September 1st. Students would return on September 2nd. And then Friday, we would have off. That's the Friday of Labor Day weekend. And obviously Monday is Labor Day, the 6th. And then we would, obviously I'm not going to go through all the vacations and days off. We would take Election Day off again, the 2nd, which we have been doing. And then the last day of school with no snow days. And there is a chance now with remote learning that we won't have snow days. But the last day with no snow days would be Friday the 17th. If we were to have snow days, and there could be days when we do call school for snow, then we would go into the next week. You cannot use the 20th. The 20th now is a legal holiday, Juneteenth. So that day would be a day off, and makeup days would follow on, obviously, the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th. And as you know, we have all the way to June 30th to be able to make up any days lost. But I think the days of making up that many school days are over. But again, there will be snow days here and there, just depending on power and safety. But this is the first read of the 2021-2022 school district calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Any questions for Mr. Superintendent at this time? We hope there's no snow days, because every snow costs us a lot of money for plowing. Right now, we got a lot of trucks out there right now, salting and plowing, and we hope they're safe. We're going to continue on the agenda, please.
So items to refer to subcommittee, Mr. Mayor, and I know Melinda can go over. Melinda, if you want to give us an update with schedule for next Tuesday night.
I believe Vice Chair D'Agostino has it.
I do. Hang on one second. And I will pull that up. Okay. All right. Following subcommittees scheduled for Tuesday, February 2nd, 5:30. Security, Safety, and Transportation. 6:30, Finance. And then at 7:30, Facilities Usage and Planning. Tuesday, but this is on there as well. Tuesday, February 9, 5:30, Curriculum Subcommittee.
Any questions at all from the committee relative to what the Vice Chair just shared with us? Seeing none, we're going to move on. That concludes agenda item number 4. Agenda item number 5 is unfinished business. Is there anything before us relative to that? Mr. Vice Chairman, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So under unfinished business, the minutes aren't ready for these particular items from these meetings yet. But we do need to take some action on them. This was Tuesday, January 12th, Curriculum Subcommittee meeting. Item number 1, the Student Opportunity Act. A motion was made by Mr. Sullivan to approve the Superintendent Thomas to submit the Student Opportunity Act as presented and written to the Department of Education, seconded by Mrs. Sullivan. I took a roll call vote, and it was a unanimous vote in favor to approve the motion. And then, so we'll need to have this was a favorable recommendation of the full committee. So the full committee will we need a vote tonight on that. Do you want to do them one at a time, or you want me to do them both?
What's the will of the committee? Do you want to do them collectively or one at a time?
One at a time.
Okay. So the first matter before us tonight is what the Vice Chairman just shared. Do we have a motion on that? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve as read.
Mr. Sullivan made. Is there a second on that motion?
Second,
There's a motion made by Mr. Sullivan, properly seconded by Mrs. Sullivan. We'll call the roll. Chair says yes. Vice Chair?
Yes.
Ms. Azak?
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Joyce. Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Minicello?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Sullivan,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan.
Yes.
Hereby passes unanimously. We'll go on to the next item, Mark.
Okay, on January 12th as well, we had a superintendent contract subcommittee meeting. We had one item on the agenda, and that was to review the superintendent's evaluation. During the superintendent contract subcommittee, we discussed the evaluation cycle 2019 to 2020. And I'll just run through the bulleted highlights. Introduction of the evaluation process to the school committee, entry plan to remote learning plan, end of cycle summative evaluation report, which results in the superintendent getting a 2.8% pay increase, significance of evidence from July to August 2020, report of findings and ratings, student learning goal, professional practice goals. Then we looked at district goal number 1, culture and context, district goal number 2, organizational efficiency and effectiveness, district goal 3, operation and finance. And I should say, just for folks that are a little less familiar with this process, the district goals and then the standards coming up, these are the items that we evaluate the superintendent on. Has he made progress? Has he not? Has he met the goal? Let's see, standard 1, instructional leadership, standard 2, management and operations, standard 3, family and community engagement, standard 4, professional culture. Then we looked at the overall rating. And then, the next step, which we'll have a future contract subcommittee meeting. At this point, it'd be some point in February to talk about the development and approval of 2020, 2021 district goals. Then also the superintendent made a request to get 2% of that 2.8 now and defer the remaining 0.8% at this time. A motion is needed to accept the superintendent's end of cycle summative evaluation together with the corresponding 2.8% base salary increase. Let's see, 2%, that's, 2% now, and then the remaining 0.8 will be processed in June to be implemented retroactively. So we need a motion on that.
Thank you, Mr. D'Agostino. We do need an entertained motion. Any questions on the summary that Mark just shared with us? Seeing none, I'm going to open it up to the floor for a motion, please.
Motion to approve the superintendent's contract with the
Second.
Motion was
2%
probably
raise
made.
now. With a 2% raise now and a 0.8% later.
Motion was made by Mr. Sullivan. Judy, Mrs. Sullivan properly seconded that. We'll call the roll. The chair says yes. The vice chair,
Yes.
Ms. Azak,
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez,
Yes.
Mr. Minicello,
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan.
Yes.
Matter passes unanimously. Is there any other matters relative to new business?
Mayor, I have one more item if I could.
Sure, Mr. Vice Chair.
All right, I apologize. It's under unfinished business. I maybe should have brought this up earlier in the discussion, but so we had a lot of discussion tonight about the last meeting, and so I had received some emails from some teachers, and I did write a response to them, and I did want to share that with the public and the teachers who were watching, because I don't know that this message got to everybody. I sent it out to those who had reached out to me. So I'll be quick. I do want to take a minute to assure all of you that the school committee as a body has the utmost respect for our teachers and remain very appreciative of all of the efforts being undertaken by all of you. I'm sure you've heard the members of the committee and the superintendent say many times how appreciative we are, and we know that this is not how you want to teach. The committee appreciates and knows that your already very difficult work has been made even more challenging during this pandemic. Special education teachers have a role that I can't begin to understand. Each of you has gifts that many of us don't have, and the students and families you serve are so lucky to have all of you. For the return of school, you're even more important than ever. you'll be the first back in front of students. The committee knows that you are already vital, already have a vital role in our district that has now become even greater because you're the first to go back. So while I understand there is some upset, I assure you that you all have the admiration, respect, and appreciation of the school committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chairman. I just want to opine at this time, if I could. I think Mr. Minicello hit it on the head. There's a lot of anguish and anger and confusion. There's just so much emotional, and it's raw because of COVID. And as chairman, and people have questioned, why is Sullivan the chairman of the school committee as mayor? Unfortunately, that's the way it is in a city. Every city in the Commonwealth has that. But I just want to say that I am proud to serve with each and every one of you. I am really proud that the superintendent is Mike Thomas. I am extremely happy that Kim Gibson is the president of the BEA, and that we serve the Brockton Public Schools, the wonderful staff, the wonderful teachers, and of course, the boys and girls students. That's the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I want to echo that. I hear this from superintendents often, and Kim will also tell me about what happens with other unions and union presidents with their school committee and with their superintendent, and it's not pretty, especially now during the COVID stress. But again, what happens in Brockton is different. The support and the unity of the school committee, working hand in hand with the superintendent, the executive team, and all the members of the Brockton Public Schools, but also working hand in hand with all our unions, the BEA and all our other unions. Is there's no way we would have got through this without that strong bond that we have, because we're all from Brockton. We all want what's best from Brockton for Brockton, and that's why it always works. And again, we have our differences, and we have to get through some tough times, and we navigate our way through. But the passion for doing what's right for the students and the families of Brockton is always there from all of you, from all of our teachers, all of our other staff in the Brockton Public Schools. And again, there's no other place I'd rather be. So thank you all.
Thank you, Superintendent. We have some agenda item 6, which is, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Azak, please.
Oh, sorry, I just jumped the gun. I wanted to just make a statement, but I'll wait because it's under new business.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Joyce. New business, there is a school committee approval, certified negotiations bargaining member disclosure. Mr. Vice Chairman, are you familiar with that?
I am. So that is a disclosure by Superintendent Thomas that participating in the collective bargaining with the BEA. I don't remember the exact wording of it. I believe that there's a line on there that it would impact a family member. And so it is necessary for him to disclose that to us and for us to take a vote whether to allow him to participate in those negotiations.
Thank you, Mr. D'Agostino. Any questions from the committee relative to that matter?
And just Mayor, just so we're clear that this has to be done legally, because obviously my wife, Patricia, who's been in the Brockton Public Schools for 25 years, is a member of the BEA.
Yep. Any questions on that? If not, I'm going to entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion was made by Mr. D'Agostino. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sullivan. I'll call the roll. The chair, Sullivan, says yes. Vice Chair D'Agostino.
Yes.
Ms. Azak.
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez.
Yes.
Mr. Minicello.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan.
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan.
Yes.
Unanimous, hereby confirmed. Thank you. Before we go to Joyce, on the new business, I just wanted to let everybody know that I'll be doing the State of the City address this coming Thursday night, which is January 28th at 7:30 p.m. Unfortunately, due to COVID, it's going to be virtual. It's the new normal for all of us, but it will be on BCA. And I want to thank BCA and Mike Simmons and his team at BCA for always accommodating us here on the school committee, and also airing the state of the city and the city council meetings as well. And it also will be able to be viewed on Facebook, which is the City of Brockton site. So just wanted that to be reflected, and it has been on social media as well. So if you want to tune in, please do. Thank you. Ms. Azak.
Thank you. I just wanted to let the committee know that Cradles to Crayons has made a donation. They will be delivering that next week. I apologize. So they're donating, I want to say probably about 500 bags with masks, some school supplies, and a couple of toiletries. So we will be giving those out at one of the grab and go sites. Hopefully we'll be able to do that next week or the following week. And I do have some coats left over. So there were some families that didn't pick them up. So if they want to reach out to me, I can try to see if we have some sizes left for them. And I believe that was it. So again, thank you to Cradles to Crayons. Hopefully one of these days when we're back in person, we can invite them to one of our meetings and really thank them for all that they do for our Brockton families.
Joyce, I want to thank you for your efforts on this year in and year out. You've been extremely diligent and really impacted and helped families in Brockton. So kudos to you, Ms. Azak.
Thank you. I can't do it without Cradles to Crayons. So they're very generous with Brockton. And it's an amazing partnership that we have. So they're really good to us. So we do have some goodies. So I'm going to see what we have left, and we will be at a couple of the grab and go sites to distribute some of the stuff that we have to the families.
Thank you again, Ms. Azak. Any other member of the committee have any questions or comments or anything at this time? Seeing none, we will be going into executive session this evening. So I need to read the following into the minutes. The committee will enter executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, for the purpose of conducting strategy with respect to collective bargaining, as conducting this deliberation in an open session would have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee. The committee will not, and I underline will not, return to open session following the executive session. I now need a motion to go into executive session.
Motion to go into executive session.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
The motion made, it was kind of jointly by Mr. D'Agostino, Mr. Sullivan. It was properly seconded by Ms. Azak. I'll read the roll to go into executive session. The chair says yes. Vice Chair?
Yes.
Ms. Azak?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Mr. Minicello?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
It's unanimous. We will be going into executive session. We will not be coming back.